Hello and welcome to The Drug Trip. This channel is here to feed the curiosity of those who would like to gain an insight to the effects of various drugs and substances through user experiences and stories, with our main goal being to entertain and reduce harm and abuse. We post regular trip reports every few days, so if you do enjoy these, we would really appreciate it if you subscribed. And more importantly, we love to hear our viewers' thoughts, opinions and experiences, so please leave something for us in the comment section and we may use it in a future video. Enjoy and be safe. I've taken LSD numerous times over the past couple of years. My first experience was half a hit of a strong blotter, unperforated, no taste body load, and it lasted around 12 to 16 hours. But every time after that, it was an 8 to 12 hour thing with very minor body load and nothing but positive experiences. I always wait 2 weeks between trips, even though the literature says a week should be fine. I'm 28, in pretty good shape, and I try to live a healthy lifestyle. I watch what I eat, I lift weights, run, and I don't drink or smoke. The most I've ever taken was 3 hits, a couple of times, and the last time, although I felt it was a bit too overwhelming, was a very positive experience. It was from the same sheet I took the last dose off. Around that time, I was also experimenting with growing my own mushrooms and had some fruiting, so I made up my mind to take Terence McKenna's favourite heroic dose of 5 grams a couple of weeks later with horrifying and decimating results, which brings us to 3 weeks after that mushroom trip, which was yesterday when I took 3 hits. I work nights and sleep during the day, and after getting home from work Friday morning, I passed out and woke up at 6 p.m. I was trying to decide if I should go ahead and trip now or tomorrow, and after a couple of hours of back and forth thinking, I decided just to go for it. And by now, it was a little past 8 p.m. A friend had called and said she was going to stop by with her boyfriend to pick up some stuff for the weekend, so I had to wait for them to show up. They finally get here at around 9:30 and leave at 10, so I'm finally free of any obligations, and it's been 12 hours since I ate, so my stomach is totally empty. Perfect. I cut out 3 hits from the unperforated sheets of what used to be 25 hits, now looking like some weird Tetris block. I put in under my tongue and I let it fully absorb for around 10 to 15 minutes before I swallow. By 11 p.m, I started coming up, feeling the energy, anxiety building up in my body. Some visual distortion started to appear, and I started hearing slight echoing effects that I always get with LSD. So far, so good. I get under the covers and I turn on my MP3 player, which contains my favourite music and some Terence McKenna lectures from later on when I'm coming down, just like I always do. It's around 11:15 now, and I'm getting hit pretty hard, but nothing shattering. It's just really good with a hint of overwhelming. Like the last time I took 3 hits, it's no biggie, I'm feeling good. But another 15 minutes pass and something's different. I'm getting stronger sound distortions than usual, people talking downstairs, in the background, sounds very low pitched and echoing harder than normal. But when I turn the music back on, it sounds fine. Very interesting. I try not to pay too much attention to this, and I keep enjoying the experience, but something else seems wrong now. The music I'm listening to all of a sudden sounds like it's slowing down to a crawl, but the pitch remains the same. This is kind of freaky, so I feel like I should get up and look around to see what other strange effects that I can notice. Wrong move. When I stand up, I feel dizzy, feeling as though I'm short and stretched sideways, running out of breath, or I also feel it's harder to breathe, and I automatically reach for water and drink from the bottle, like my life depended on it. Some of it runs down my face. I'm now thoroughly convinced I'm having a bad reaction, feeling like I'm going to fade away and I'm not ready to die here like this. Not yet. I definitely have issues letting go, But how can I not? What will my parents think when they find my lifeless body? What will happen to all of those that I care about? Come on, get it together. You're not going to die. You're going to pull through this, and you're going to fight. If I say things, if I sing, if I act hyper, I can jumpstart my heart to have it beat faster and stronger, so I can't slip into unconsciousness and die. At this point, it was just sheer terror. Collapsing back on the bed, I put on some music. Well, I hit play again. Since I had paused it previously when I started to freak out and get scared because I couldn't hear it, and it was getting fainter and fainter and slowing down, which obviously meant at the time that my heart was also slowing down. My senses are severely distorted and would not sync up. So for instance, when I would get up to turn on the light, I would see me getting up, but somehow feel like my body was still in the bed, as though trying to catch up to what I was actually seeing, which was me standing up now, or was it the other way around? Was I still lying in bed? I'm not sure. Just thinking about standing up and visualising it, I'm still not sure. I kept mumbling about the chemical affecting my blood pressure and tried to make myself remember the words blood pressure, medication and adrenaline, as if my life depended on being able to remember those words after the trip, but I somehow just couldn't utter them. This was also a repeat experience of the 5 grams of mushrooms I ate 3 weeks ago when I had the most horrific trip of my life. Except this was going to last twice as long. That last notion was enough to freak me out even more. This horrific cycle kept continuing for hours, where I would sit back in the bed and calm down for 10 to 15 minutes, then this would happen all over again. It was happening in waves, like it would if it was psilocybin. At this point, I had many crazy theories as to what was happening. One of them was that I was having a mushroom flashback while I was tripping on LSD, which was the only plausible explanation because of the similarities. Looking back now, maybe I would have had a very profound experience if I had just let go and accepted that I was dying and allowed myself to let go. But it's really hard when your mind actually believes that you are and utterly convinced that you are dying. Anyway, then when things started to calm down, still some OEVs and distortions, but nothing of the so-called life-threatening experience I was having prior. I started getting that uncomfortable body load feeling, and I had a revelation that this part of the experience totally demanded and depended on how the peak of the experience was. If it was a good trip, then there would be little to no body load, no physical manifestations, no build-up of toxicity. But if the trip was difficult, the end result would repeat itself as a lot of body load. This also made sense at the time, and I kinda chuckled at my own cleverness for figuring this out. Now I had to think of ways to get rid of this body load, and I remembered that I had some herb stashed away, so I prepared that and took a hit. When I laid back down in the bed, a sense of calm started to appear all around me. A body buzz started, and I had the revelation that this was what had been missing from my trip to calm my nerves all along. Now I was feeling more relaxed, less anxious, and I wanted to put back on some music. The OEVs also strengthened, but it was different. The patterns on the walls weren't really swirling, but they were rather pulsing now. The music was sounding heavenly, and I could not help but marvel at how clear it sounded, and I kept saying, "Oh my God, this is awesome," and it was. The feeling continued for around an hour, and I keep taking the additional hit of weed every hour on the hour till the 12-hour mark to prolong the experience and relaxation. This definitely decreased the feeling of the body load. I just tossed and turned in bed and listened to some Terence McKenna lectures. Now, having a better understanding of what he meant when he said difficult experience, I just never thought I would have this sort of reaction from LSD, which has been gentle with me up until this point. I've now been awake for 26 hours, and I feel like I have insomnia. Although there were no OEVs or visual disturbances anymore, I still got a slight CEV, some white energy thing just burning and radiating like the sun, or even boiling. I also feel anxiety, slight depression, probably because I was worried that I won't ever be the same again. I've thought like this on mushrooms previously, when I completely feel like mentally challenged and that it's going to be permanent, but it always goes away and I come back to regular consciousness after 6 hours or so. So it should have cleared up by now, but it hasn't. It's also possible that I feel this way because I haven't slept and I'll feel better once I do, but what use is that if I can't fall asleep? What if I'll never be able to go to sleep again? What if I'm still like this tomorrow when it's time to go to work? And there, negative thought loops still continuing, consuming me. Residuals of a bad trip, no doubt, or it could be an instant flashback right after the come down. I don't quite know how these work. Not knowing when, if it's going to stop, is depressing and equally terrifying. The music I listened to while I was tripping was also giving me anxiety when I thought about it, but for no good reason. My head feels like it's heavy and kind of numb, almost as if it's not from LSD but from the weed. It's just not clearing up and lingering for way longer than I want it to. I have doubts about retrying these experiments now. This might very well be the last time I touch these things. A few more hours pass and it all starts to finally clear up, very slowly. I'm starting to get a minor headache and it feels as though I'm going to finally start recovering. I've never been so happy because of a headache. I can feel my head again. I quickly swallow an Advil cap, anticipating some relief by the time I lay down and go to sleep. And I was able to get to sleep around 1 AM after some 30 hours of being awake. When I wake up the next day, I was fully back to normal. No hints of the haze or anxiety or depression that I felt the day before. Now I'm wondering if these things actually precipitate or exacerbate a latent or existing mental disorder that I might have.